It kicks off with Michael in a full-on hot pursuit from the police. The kind where you're glancing over your shoulder every other second, dodging other cars, and plowing into whatever's in your path. A chopper swings overhead, and at one point, his windshield catches an apartment ladder while trying to avoid a bystander. The hit cuts his face, but he keeps going, a good distance from the first cherry top, even as another cruiser joins the chase, until a crawling truck suddenly blocks the road, way too slow for him to hit the brakes in time. Earlier, the fugitive's at the airport and is telling Angie there's been a delay. She's already got cold feet about meeting, says his history makes this difficult, but he swears things will be different this time. Later, sitting in the rental, he calls the agency to complain about a mix-up with the vehicle. He ordered a sedan, not a minivan, but the clerk says the manager's out and she can't sort it out herself. She asks that he stays back for a while to get it sorted, but waiting isn't an option when his woman's on the clock. He's in Johannesburg trying to make sense of the road signs and is just digging into his bag for his map when he almost runs into another car, making him realize that he should be driving on the left. Things get easier after that until he clips a cyclist and sends the guy flying. It's a close call that has him muttering he needs to stay out of trouble. Stuck in gridlock, he calls Angie again.
Can't you just wait for a little bit? I've been waiting for 18 months.
Okay, call me when you get here.
Explaining the holdup and the car switch at the rental, so he doubles down, promising he won't blow this and he'll be with her soon, as he's waited 18 months to be reunited with her. While traffic's still a standstill, a beep draws his attention to the glove box under the passenger seat, where he finds a phone with a single text: "Make sure, keep it clean." The ordeal is so startling that he's unaware that the traffic has given way. Cars driving past with the one stuck behind him honking furiously. A kid walks up to him, hawking car chargers, pleading with him to buy one. Yet his polite decline doesn't chase the boy away. Even after explaining that he had already bought one earlier, the youngster keeps insisting with a cheerful smile, and while this distraction drags on, another child slips a hand through the open window and snatches the glasses from his bag. Things get weirder when a snack slips to the floor, and in reaching for it, he spots a gun tucked at his feet. He's full of surprise, tossing the gun to the passenger's seat. Then he pulls into a car dump, too rattled to keep driving, when the mystery phone rings. Unsure what to do, he lets the phone rings out, but finally picks at the second ring.
Hello, who is this? Can you tell me what's going on here?
And the voice on the other end is expecting a hitman that should have acknowledged his text, not a panicked Michael stammering about a mix-up with the ride. The caller hangs up mid-conversation. Fed up, he decides to ditch the van and hoof it, placing the gun and the phone on the dash. He's only a stone throw when the phone rings again, dragging him back. This time, someone claiming to be a cop admits the mistake, states he got caught up in an undercover mission, and gives him an address where he can swap the minivan for a different set of wheels. Michael is relieved, especially knowing he won't have to walk the rest of his journey. Not knowing the area and getting no help from locals, he falls back on his map, but amidst all that, he sights a notice pasted by the roadside about a missing prosecutor. The streets look rough, and he's not about to keep asking questions, so he keeps rolling until he's wedged and lost. Out of options, he calls Angie. Not sure how to explain what's happened so far, asking instead for directions to Smut Street, preferring she doesn't pound him for answers, and in return, he'll see her right after or dutifully risk losing her for good. She agrees, and he gets to work trying to back out of the granite jam, only for a section of the back seat to pop open and reveal a hostage. He scrambles closer just as the woman stirs and thrashes, so he throws up his hands to show he's unarmed. He yanks off her gag, and when she asks for water, hands over the last of his juice box. Still following her lead, he starts untying her wrists, but she smashes him with a headbutt and a kick. She's quick, but he's quicker, knocking the gun out of her grip seconds after she snatches it. Both are rattled, strangers to each other, the woman refusing to believe he has no idea what he's doing. Michael's now waving the weapon, shouting for her to stay put, deciding he doesn't want to understand what any of this means. Back in the driver's seat, he floors it, still heading for Smut Street, clueless that the gun slid right back into the lady's reach, who's just waiting for her cue. Soon enough, she's the one calling the shots, muzzle in his face, ordering him to turn around. Instead,
I said, stop down!
a round goes off, grazing his neck and punching clean through the headrest. Angry, he snaps at her, regaining control of the gun while keeping her pinned in place. The ride keeps rolling, but she makes another break for it, wrenching the door open and leaning halfway out, still tangled in the seatbelt. She's groping at it, trying to free herself when Michael hauls her back in, fighting to keep her inside while Semi's thunder past. The phone rings again. This time, the voice on the other end barks that he's late, unravels he's an ex-convict who's broken his parole, probably on his way to see his ex-wife, threatens extra jail time, gives him 5 minutes tops, and warns he'll have worse to deal with if he blows it. There's no patience for his griping about the random hostage in the back. Now desperate, he pleads with her to just cooperate and quit with the stunts. That's when she clocks that he's totally out of the loop and lays it out. She's Rachel, a prosecutor working a case on Rhodes. She was heading home when they possibly grabbed her, and now, like it or not, she's stuck here with him. The American's in denial, insisting she's the cop's problem, not his. But she keeps pressing him to do the right thing and drops the bomb that Rhodes is actually the chief of police. The shouting match escalates until Michael's had enough, shoving the gag back in her mouth, finally getting a quieter ride. Smut Street turns out to be sketchy and dead quiet, but the text says it's the right spot, so he rolls into a dark warehouse. Still creeping forward, he ducks down just as a bullet rips through. Rachel shouts for him to back out, and he doesn't argue, throwing it in reverse and shooting back to the main road. She's already working her restraints loose and gets the door open. 2 cars are closing in, and she needs the gun now if they're going to make it out. Seconds later, they're in a full-blown running gunfight, Michael wringing every ounce out of the van while she leans out, trading shots with the men behind them. Watching his mirror sparks an idea, and he tells her to get back inside and wait for his cue. It comes as they reach a ridge. He whips the wheel, cutting out of the path and sending one of the cars plowing straight through. The second rides up alongside, but he keeps slamming into it until the heavier minivan wins out, flipping the smaller car onto its roof. As if that wasn't enough, the wrecked car goes up in a fireball. Rachel scrambles into the passenger seat while the American drives straight past the flames. She says she knows someone who can help, and under her directions, he winds through a township, pulling up outside a small residence. She hops out to knock, but the man who answers barely listens before brushing her off, meaning they'll have to try somewhere else. Her next lead has them doubling back through the streets. She's calling out for him, and when Michael finally pulls up, Benji freezes in place, only to shut her down. His son got pulled into the mess, just an 8-year-old, threatened and scared, and now Benji's washing his hands of the whole thing. The exchange leaves the driver knowing he's got to call his ex-wife, who's still waiting at the embassy. When he gets her on the line, he tells her to stay put while he comes for her, but Rachel cuts in, warning it's a bad move and a setup waiting to happen. If Angie's at the embassy, she's safe, so long as she stays inside. Michael hands her the phone, and the prosecutor shifts to calming him down, knowing he's rattled and desperate to get to his girl. But the embassy call shows Angie's not exactly a good listener. She's already out, and that flips her husband into go mode. He tells his companion to belt up because he's about to drive this thing fast and furious. Despite the journey only a street away, he throws caution to wind, speeding past traffic cues and having Rachel wanting to melt into her seat. They spot Angie, just as the prosecutor spots Rhodes' men and lay on the horn for her to back off. Michael flips an open car door on the way through, launching over it, and the men in black answer with gunfire. At least she's now in the grip of a soldier hauling her back inside. Rachel's hit but refuses a hospital, calling it the Lion's Den, and instead points him toward a dark tunnel. He pushes back, but she forces the call, making him drive deep until they're out of range. The driver rips open her blouse to reach the wound and presses down hard, but she knows it's no use as she's running out of time. With what strength she has, she gets him to start a voice recording on his phone, laying out who she is and exactly what went down. Her testimony comes out full and clear enough to hold up as evidence, while Michael keeps the pressure on, watching her breathing turn shallow and her words slow. She makes it to the end, where he adds himself as a witness, then he pleads with her not to fade on him. She tells him to take the recording straight to the courthouse, to a Judge Musaka specifically, because they're the only one he can trust. But Michael's not built for that kind of responsibility, and he keeps begging her to hold on so she can finish the job herself. His voice rises, but she still takes her last breath, leaving him sitting there, staring ahead, trying to figure out his next move. Now he's shouting at her lifeless body, slamming his fists into the wheel, then the door, pouring all his frustration out before the scene cuts to black. Next time he's shown, he's witnessing a burial rites. Body's been buried in a shallow grave, and he's lingered as long as the flies. Blood still stains her seat, and it flashes him back to carrying her out of the car and laying her in the tunnel. He tries calling Angie, but only reaches her voicemail, so he hangs up in defeat. A man suddenly appears at his window with a knife, demanding his wallet. Yet Michael hardly reacts as he pulls out the gun and calmly tells him to step away. The moment he's gone, the other phone rings with word that they know there's a corpse in the tunnel. The caller wants to know how much Rachel spilled, then slips into cheap jabs about Michael's time inside, and the worn-out man shoots back that he's already paid his dues, calling it an accident, though the other side twists it into a knack for showing up in the wrong place at the wrong time. The voice on the line reminds him he's already blown his parole terms in a city he barely knows, a place the caller runs top to bottom, where the cops aren't an option, and where his wife would be easy pickings the second she stepped outside. At the caller's request, he flicks on the radio and hears his own name blasted out as a wanted man for Rachel's death, and he buries his face in his hands, knowing the heat's just been cranked. The chuckle on the other end drags up memories of his old man's cruelty, and that sting drives him to bite back, cursing the caller before cutting the line. He tears the phone apart, chucks it, douses it with liquid, and floors it out of there. Playing back the recorded testimony, he catches the name of the judge and dials him right away, but only gets a voicemail. So he leaves a message about the confession, the setup against him, and that he's heading to the courthouse. With squad cars posted at key spots and his face flashing on park TVs, he decides it's too risky and steers off in the opposite direction. The blaring sirens keep him on edge, so for safety, he backs into a yard where the homeowner shoots him a hard stare. Yet he waits until the patrol car passes before easing back onto the road, his phone warning of a weak battery. And with the coast seeming clear, he works up the nerve to head toward the courthouse. But when more cruisers approach, he swings sharply into a car wash. While the car's getting hosed down by the machine, he leans back and stares at his screensaver, he and Angie embraced in a pool of water. His call is still getting redirected to voicemail, but it doesn't stop him from leaving a message, reminiscing about a happy memory before laying it straight, how they'll paint him as the villain. But he's coming back to set things right. He knows the only way back to her is with a clear name, and apologizes for every trouble he's been associated with. Ends it with a soft,
I hope you understand, and I love you forever.
He rolls over to another side of town for a spray job, but comes up short on cash, offering his wristwatch as trade. The guy's not biting, says that won't grease the wheels. But eventually the artisan reconsiders and hits up his crew to handle it. After what feels like forever, they get the job done, and he asks for directions to the courthouse before slipping out in the minivan now painted the loudest of red. The judge calls back, and he eagerly tells him he's on the way to the courthouse, but Musuka insists that he stays off the courthouse grounds. There's heat ready to pop the moment he steps foot, as showing up there is the most predictable thing he could do. He argues it's the only way to clear his name, but the judge offers to meet up somewhere safer, try to cool the fire. Before he can get an address, though, Michael gets distracted by police sirens. Then he gets pulled, hand inching towards the piece. Cop flips over the phone in hand, slams him for taking a call while driving. When asked for his license, he stays mute, making the officer have to ask twice more before pulling out a gun to ask him to step out. Unaware Michael's already arming his pistol, lifting it into sight. Just then, a crew of kids cruise by tossing trash cans like they're fireworks. The cop's eyes catch the chaos and tells the man to hold tight while he chases the real troublemakers. He heads back onto the road, phone still in hand, keeping the conversation going while he's behind the wheel, and the person on the other end is asking where exactly he is, so they can send someone out to meet him. But before he can even take a proper look around to figure out his location, the screen flashes a low battery warning, and the line suddenly cuts. He reaches over to hook it up to the car charger, trying to get some life back into it. But the thing refuses to work, so in frustration he smacks the dash a couple of times, muttering under his breath. And right then, this strange-looking passerby shows up at his window out of nowhere, making him jump. The guy says something in a mumble that's impossible to catch, and even though he can't make out a single word, he's already set on pushing forward and getting to wherever he's heading. Shaking it off, Michael locks in on one goal: get to the courthouse, since he can no longer reach the judge on phone. That's when he hears the wail of sirens, a patrol car flying down a separate lane. He floors it, threading through traffic, and before he knows it, he's in the same high-octane chase from the start. Now he's blasting against traffic just to shake them, but the squad car behind him matches every move, also barreling head-on into oncoming lanes. Up above, the sky's got eyes, a chopper tracking his every turn. The heat ramps up as more units join the hunt, closing the gap. He almost clips a blind man crossing, swerving hard to avoid him, only to slam into a metal ladder that spiderwebs his windshield. Doesn't matter though, as he keeps the pedal down. A wrong turn throws him nose to nose with another cruiser, but he jerks the wheel into a side alley. The patrol's still glued to him. They rip through the narrow lane, skimming overflowing bins and scattered trash. He nearly plows into another pedestrian, but the guy jumps clear. Moments later, Michael tears through a mounted scaffold, sending it crashing behind him and blocking the pursuing cars, buying himself a breath. He dials the judge again to spill his latest move, but before he can get a word out, a cruiser rams his side. Glancing around, he realizes he's on the wrong street, miles from the courthouse, and swings the van into another turn, the pack of sirens and the chopper still locked on his trail. A massive lorry swings wide across the road, forcing Michael to yank the wheel hard and cut straight into a mall parking entrance. While the first squad car on his tail isn't so lucky as the driver tries to follow but gets flipped from a sudden hard brake and sent tumbling by the lorry, which just barrels on down its path. Inside the mall, Michael's van barrels through aisles, scattering shelves and merchandise. A lone patrol car pushes in after him, the officer leaning out to fire off rounds, none landing. Both vehicles slam into an anchored shelf, the impact jolting them to a halt. The cop jumps out to make the grab, but Michael slips out his side, weaving between displays and slipping through the rear service exit. Seconds later, he's back on open streets. This time, though, there's no wild acceleration. He just rolls forward, eyes locked ahead, thoughts heavy. Soon, the courthouse looms, but so does a full roadblock. Cruisers lined up, chopper hovering overhead. The PA system crackles through the air, ordering him to exit the vehicle again and again. Michael just sits there, hands on the wheel, staring down the line of cops, wondering how the hell every wrong turn brought him to this exact spot. Decision made, he tightens his seatbelt and barrels through a roadblock leading to the courthouse, then screeches to a stop just long enough to grab a man and haul him into the car, pressing the gun to his side as officers swarm in with weapons drawn, shouting for him to drop it. Yet he holds firm and demands to see the judge, warning he'll kill his hostage if the judicial bigwig doesn't appear. The officer tries to diffuse the tension by using calm, measured words, urging the gunman to think carefully about what he's doing. Yet the slow back and forth feels to the man like an intentional stalling tactic, a way to buy time. So his patience finally snaps and he fires a shot straight into the roof of the car. The report of the gunshot forces the police to reassess, and in a quick show of compliance, they order the helicopter to pull back, while the frontman shout reassurances that they'll bring him exactly what he's demanding. Though the man, red-faced, bellows that if they drag their feet any longer, he'll put a bullet in his hostage right there and then. The officer eventually chooses to give in to the demands, telling his colleagues to bring the judge out, yet before anything can happen, another figure steps into the scene, Detective Smith, who immediately identifies the man holding the gun as a fugitive and firmly rules out the idea of producing the judge. From that moment, the case shifts into his hands as he marks it down as a DT matter, making it clear he's now in charge. The gunman keeps pressing his threat to blow his hostage's head off, but Smith remains completely unfazed, convinced there's no real chance the man will follow through. The hostage has a microphone within reach, and the instant the man notices that it belongs to a news agency, he wastes no time in making sure the device is switched on. The detective, growing visibly agitated, raises his weapon and points it directly at the man, despite the local cop's firm warning for him to back down since there's a hostage in play. Unimpressed by the unnecessary escalation, the local officer reacts to the reckless move by reciting the standard protocol for handling the situation, though the detective's attention is already fixed on something else entirely. The local police already suspect foul play from the detective, so he urges the man to just come clean with whatever he's holding, but the man insists on seeing a judge first. That only makes the detective's temper flare. And while the cop warns his men not to fire under any circumstances, the man slips a hand into his pocket to pull out the recorder. Detective Smith suddenly raises a false alarm, shouting that he's about to brandish a bomb, and then shoots him in the stomach. The officer, standing his ground, makes absolutely sure that nobody squeezes off another shot and that no one so much as takes a step toward the car. The tension is still thick in the air when the detective finally throws up his hands in surrender, though the look on his face makes it clear he's still boiling inside. Inside the vehicle, the wounded man has the recorder, positioned right up against the microphone, making sure every word blasts out for the world to hear. What comes through is the voice of Rachel, laying bare the ugly truth about a trafficking ring operating in South Africa, a racket run by none other than the chief of police. Before long, the news is everywhere. The American hero who blew the lid on the syndicate is alive, recovering steadily in the hospital, and his actions have already earned him public praise straight from the country's president.